Okay. Good evening. I would like to call this meeting of the Berlin-Boylston Regional School Committee to order. Just a reminder that this meeting is being recorded. Your image and/or voice may be broadcast. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll have a public comment. Is anyone here that would like to make a public comment? No. Oh, no, okay. All right, great. Communications, does anyone have any communications they would like to share with the group? Great, we're gonna fly through this. Okay, so tonight we're gonna do something a little different than we've done in the past. We're gonna, well, first let's approve the consent agenda. Okay, could I please have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Laurie?
Second.
Jess? All right, any discussion on this consent agenda? We have some warrants in here for the first time.
That's the only question I had.
I signed off.
Okay.
Dan?
So through the
Go
chair,
ahead.
I'll explain the warrants in my financial update, and I'll explain what's behind the warrants, et cetera.
We did bring them as well too, to sign.
Yeah, it was the cleaned up stuff from the summer that they've been working on since Dan started.
Is there anything that's been?
Anything what?
Anything?
It's to TMS. The answer is no, we're not now. All right, any other discussion?
So those warrants were not in the drive.
No, we usually just put the page of my signature. We're not gonna put every.
Again, I'd be happy to some enhance, but I little and I have it in my little narrative here that if the chair signs off on the warrant, that the school business official would then be required to bring the warrants to school committee. What I will do, if you don't mind, I'll hold off until we get to that part of the meeting, is that I'll give you the values to vote, and then I'll give you a really, really brief snapshot as to what's in each warrant, so you know what you're voting on. And then, at the end of the evening, you are welcome, it is your prerogative, to review the warrants that are behind me on the table here. It's a lot of paper, killed a lot of trees. I love paper.
But also, I know you're going to subscribe to a chair. Past and can do is come here early and bring your warrants with us early. So this way you get a chance to review them before you're voting off on those as well too. So even though Megan might sign off on those as the chair, but to have them available for you before the meeting starts, and that's something we can do for you guys as well too. So you get a chance to look through them before you're voting.
All right, so what we used to do is we wouldn't have all the invoices, we would just have the summary page. Nicole would scan the summary page into the drive, and people could review that so they could at least see what was being paid for the meeting. So it's fine that it didn't happen this time, yeah, Dan, but we could do that moving
Through
forward.
the chair,
Yeah.
gonna
Go
best
ahead.
practices, and we're not there yet.
Mhm.
Superintendent's on day 20, and I'm on day 16, whatever, as we say to each other. So what should happen in a perfect world, and we're gonna get there, you're gonna get there, is that the committee should receive a copy of each respective warrant 101, whatever, with the value and the respective reports that go with that warrant. And then you're free to look at it, and if you have any questions about any of the invoices, you're more than happy to raise that question. That's in a perfect world. And it's also for the payroll warrant as well, that you should receive the payroll warrant from the payroll director, and then on an email that goes to the treasurer and to the school business official, the payroll director would say, please find attached warrant, payroll warrant 101 with a value of $500,000. Please approve. The treasurer typically then says, the file transfer has been done, payroll is funded, $500,000, and then the committee would then vote to approve the payroll warrant. I know that we're getting way ahead of ourselves, But that's best practice. If I may, if we could just table this discussion on the AP warrants until my
Vote on the consent agenda to then?
Yep, good idea.
So I did already sign, just to be clear, I signed off on the warrant and the bills have been paid. Because the committee designated me as not as the chair, I was voted by the committee to review the warrants and sign off, and then we approve as part of the consent agenda. But we can wait to vote until after Dan's report. All right, so the motion was on the table, it was seconded, so we're gonna take a vote now and then we'll,
Well, we can move to table the topic until
All right.
Dan's
all right.
report.
All right, so we're gonna move to table the topic until later in the meeting.
I make that motion, yes.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, second. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, I'm an aye as well, so we'll table that. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do tonight, like I said, we're gonna do things a little bit differently tonight. We're gonna enter into an executive session. This has to do with the contract for the paraprofessionals. The school committee is going to exit the room, so all of you can stay here. We're gonna see if there's any questions on that contract. There were two people designated to do the negotiations from the committee. It was Laurie and Mike, and they spent a lot of time this summer working on that with, I think Cindy was on the committee. I don't know who else, John. Oh, Janelle, okay, thank you. Yeah, so we finally have a finished product, and tonight we are gonna vote. I believe the vote will be in open session to ratify the contract, but we're gonna enter into executive session to discuss the contract for anyone that has any questions. And Cole has paper copies and chat about it if needed. All right, so could I please have a motion to enter into executive session pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Purpose 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if any open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body and the chair so declares. And this topic is the paraprofessional contract.
So moved.
Laurie, Mike, all right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
We're gonna go right to.
And I as
conference.
well? All
Yes.
right, we'll move into the conference room.
We should not.
Yeah, if you and Cindy want to come for questions, that might be helpful.
Decide. Gotta be consistent. Time, no time. What'd you get today? Top. I've given up.
Lined it up.
It's gonna be a while.
It's gonna be roll call, and I didn't roll call, whatever. All right. I need like that cheat sheet. Yes, yes, unless it's on the agenda as a, yeah. That's right, yeah.
Good, you sure?
Are we on? Okay. All right, could I please have a motion to enter back into open session?
So moved. Second.
Laurie and Julie, we're gonna do a roll call vote. Jess?
Aye.
Julie?
Aye.
Laurie? Aye. Mike? I'm an aye as well. All right, we're back in open session. So we are going to vote right now to approve the paraprofessional union contract. So could I please have a motion to approve the contract as we reviewed it for the paraprofessional union?
So moved.
Laurie and Mike, any discussion on that?
Point of parliamentary inquiry. So what is, it has to be 2/3 majority to pass?
Yes,
And so right now, there's only five of us
correct.
for that. So what even 4/5?
So if 4 people vote in favor of it, it would pass. No, 5 people have to vote in favor of it to pass. 2/3.
2/3 is 6 to 6, that's 4/5.
With 2/3 of 5.
Why do we need 2/3 on the majority? Well, sorry, through the chair, why are we thinking 2/3 are not the majority?
I don't know. No, only 4, 2/3, 4.
Yeah.
2/3 is 4.
Why is there 2/3?
Why is it 2/3? Why it's just
I don't
always-
know. Some stuff is 2/3 majority.
Well, where did you get it?
I'm not getting it from anywhere. It doesn't matter, 4 is majority. 4 is a majority here and 4 is
It's also
2/3 majority. All right, any more discussion on that? Okay, we'll do a roll call vote on that one. Mike?
Aye.
Laurie? Aye. Julie?
Aye.
And Jess?
I'm going to abstain.
Okay, I'm an aye, so that motion passes.
So through the chair, I will speak to the paras that have been reaching out to us to find out this is passed, and I'm sure they're paying attention on the meeting as well too, let them know it passed. To subcommittee and Janelle and Cindy, thanks for your great work on this, because this really was good work that you did. To Mike and Laurie, thank you
Yeah,
very much
thank
for this work you guys did on this. It's a nice piece for us to have, especially as we're going into teaching negotiations as well too, and having a contract with them as well.
Yeah,
Thanks
thank
for
you.
it. Thank you.
Thank you, yep. Okay, so we're gonna move forward with the reports. So for my chair's report, one thing we need to start thinking about is hiring a full-time superintendent. While we would love to keep Al on forever, that is just not possible. And the reason for that, for anyone listening that doesn't understand, the reason for that is because he is already a retired superintendent. So we were lucky to bring him on. But the way the state works is you can't retire and then go back and work for a district without a waiver. So we're pretty sure we're gonna get the waiver for the year. But we really are gonna need somebody on board by middle of next year, most likely. So that being said, I think that it would be prudent of us to at least start thinking about the hiring process for the superintendent, the permanent superintendent. So I would like to get people's feedback, but I would like to appoint Laurie, if she's interested and willing, to be the chair of the superintendent hiring subcommittee. And how that will work is, I think a few people from the community have already stepped forward. And we'll have a group of people, teachers, administrators, central office folks, parents, students. Yep.
Selectmen last year.
Yep, town officials, yep, whoever is interested in serving on this committee. And Laurie will be the representative from the school committee. If somebody else wants to go from the school committee, that's great. I am not going to. So if there's somebody else that wants to be part of the process, the only thing I ask is that if you are going to be part of it, you need to be part of the entire thing. And the way it works is Laurie will, all the resumes that come in, will post the position. We'll work with MASC to do a formal search. And then as candidates come in, Laurie will review the resumes and bring in people for interviews. And the first round of interviews will be with said committee. There will be set questions that are asked of every candidate, and the committee will do a grading system of each candidate so that we can try to keep some consistency in how we're viewing each candidate. And then the finalists will move on, and we'll absolutely gonna have Al meet with them, probably have Dan or Aaron, whoever is here at that point, myself. And then obviously the full committee is gonna meet with the candidate and the finalists. And then we'll make a decision, we'll vote in public. So without further ado, unless does anyone, I don't know if anyone has it, let me make the motion first. So could I please have a motion to appoint Mrs. Lorian Hart as the chair of the Superintendent Search Committee? Mike? I need a second.
Yeah, I'll second, yes.
Second, and then we can discuss, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right, so now we can discuss.
Okay, so in lieu of this being a big search, a careful and thoughtful search, would it behoove, and John, you may be able to know this because you gathered all the applications for the principal search. Would it behoove the committee to have two people to split work? I think it might be a lot for Lori to do.
So just through the chair, MASC, this is the world, right? We pay them annual fee each year, MASC, to help us do this work. They're the ones that help advertise this. They're the
Yeah.
ones that help bring all this stuff together for us, and we'll work closely with. They want a point person, to Megan's point.
Yeah.
They want
One
one.
person.
They want one person to work with, but we pay an annual fee
Yeah.
to them. Let's use it, right? And let them help
Perfect.
work and do that search. And we can actually have them come in and do a presentation to us to make sure we want MASC to lead the search.
Yeah.
How do we want NASDAQ to lead the search? How do we want other people to come and lead the search? MASC does a great job. They have those connections and have those things, but they do a lot of the legwork for us, but they want a point person.
Okay,
So the last, I happen to be on the search for the
Yeah.
superintendent. I actually have the handout, it just happened to be in this folder. And I know last time there were two school committee members, there was someone who led it. And Al is also going to help me to organize as well, but I do like the idea of having another member with me.
yeah, just you don't have to do all the work, it's a lot.
So I am definitely not interested. Is there anyone else that is interested?
So I won't be here.
And that's what I mean.
So
So
that's-
I don't mind
Lisa's
doing
not
one,
here,
but
I don't want to,
welcome anybody else.
yeah.
Lori, if she needs it, being it's we're on the committee anyway.
Oh, it's true, it's negotiation.
I'm also interested as well, because I wasn't involved the last time.
Oh, Jess, you were involved with this?
I was
She was
not.
not.
For Jeff. Okay. All right, so what do you think? 3, is that too many or?
I think everyone in school committee is going to be an opportunity to be on this committee anyways. So
Yeah.
it all depends what segments they want. I think the MASC is going to say, great, if you don't want 3 on there, that's fine. It's all going to go to you eventually, but they just need a contact person.
All right, so
Who am I
Laurie's gonna
working
be
with?
the point person, and then if Jess and Mike wanna you wanna go to all the first round interviews, is what you're saying?
No, I don't really want, but if I could just suggest.
Yeah.
Before we do start interviewing, the committee have a discussion. Maybe it's an executive session, maybe it's not, I don't know, but as it relates to negotiating a future contract with whoever this person will be,
Yes,
just make sure the committee is on board with what they want in a superintendent.
I agree. I think that, yep, and that way whoever is the point person or whoever's looking through the resumes will know what we're looking for.
Sorry, through the chair, even when I did mine in Hampton, Wilbraham, they did community outreach, right? So MASC had like one in Berlin, one in Boylston, and they brought people together and said, hey, what are you looking for, right? And they took that information, that's the legwork they do for us. And then
That's
they come
nice.
back and say, here's what your community's looking for. We appreciate what school committee's looking for, but here's what the other communities are looking for.
All right,
That's helpful.
so, and the other thing is, I think that whoever the point person is, Laurie, I think you have to kind of remain neutral, similar to how we brought up the principal searches. John was the moderator for that. He remained extremely neutral in all of that. He was pretty much just doing all of the administrative work, kind of like the legwork. So his opinion wasn't coming out until afterwards when he had, had private conversations. So I think the point person isn't there to sway the committee, more to listen to the committee and see what everybody is saying about the candidate. So as for the other school committee members that are on this committee, I think it's going to be important to remember, to Al's point, we're going to have our chance. Obviously, if there's somebody that you're like, oh my God, no, you need to voice that. But I think we just need to kind of keep that in mind too, that I think this should be, we want to hear the voices from everybody else, right? So that, you know, 'cause-
And I think, Megan, to your point, having Mike and sort of like a subcommittee, right?
Yes,
They're
it'll
gathering
be a
all this
subcommittee.
information,
okay,
and it could literally be subcommittee for a superintendent search, right? That's okay to have that, and they're gonna bring the information to the full school committee. But MAS, they just want a point person, like, instead of going to all, you know, everybody who's up for it.
all right, so the motion on the table is to have Laurie be the chair of this subcommittee. Let's vote on that, and then we can make a separate motion to add 2 members. We'll make a separate motion to add Jess and Mike to that subcommittee. Does that work for everybody? Okay, all right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, I'm an aye as well, that motion passes. Okay, could I please have a motion to add Mrs. Jessica Deglioberti and Mr. Michael Topman as the 2 members to the superintendent search subcommittee?
So,
Laurie,
second?
Jess? All right, any discussion on that?
I also think it's great you have someone from Berlin, someone from Boston.
Oh, it's great, yeah, perfect.
So I think
Yeah.
that's-
Good point.
I think the
Great.
community will feel good about that.
Yeah, that's great. All right, I love it. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
I'm an aye as well. Any, Mike, you said aye, right?
Sure.
I saw you. Okay. Okay, that was my chair's report. I'm glad we got that done. The only other thing I wanted to say is it's going to tie into what Dan has to say. We are still working diligently with cleaning up the central office. I think that from my perspective, I'm only looking at it from bird's eye view, but I am getting updates probably more frequently than others. It seems like things are moving along, and I'm pleased with the progress and pleased with the work that both Al and Dan have been doing, and Aaron, who isn't even on board yet. So, you know, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for the hours and the time and the sweat and the grit that you guys have both showed in moving the office forward. It's greatly appreciated, and I just want everyone to know that. And again, please be patient, but they're moving in the right direction. And that's all I have.
I think we're gonna lay some really groundwork for the next superintendent that comes in here. We'll be able to take the reins and really make some good things happen in this district, because there are some really great things in place. Okay, if through the chair, if I could just give a brief overview.
Al's up,
I know Dan's got a lot he wants to talk about financially. Just a little update on a couple things. First is MCAS data. As I'm sure you've heard by now, across the state, the data does not look as good as we were hoping it would look in almost all categories. Student performance went down. So I was sitting on a conference call with all the superintendents as we were discussing and looking at the data as a whole. We have some concerns as well too, and we as principals and administrators are starting to look at that data. We just got the boxes in literally maybe a few days ago. But please know that the next school committee meeting on November 12th, we'll be giving our presentation to you guys. It's going to be in 2 folds that we'll give to you. The first one will be showing the data and letting you see exactly what it looks like. And I know a lot of you have access to that, your own individual students, but also what's happening in the community. But also with that, what's our next steps? Now what are we going to do? Here's our data. What is our plan in place? And that's going to be a huge impact for you guys, because we as administrators are going to be coming to you and say, with that, we're going to need some financial support with that as well too. Whether it be some additional paras, whether it be some additional support, some additional programs, additional textbooks, whatever we're coming up with, what our next steps will be, that will be where we need to work from you guys as a school committee to support us on that and helping us get those things accomplished. So please know, I appreciate your patience. I'm glad we were able to hold it up to November 12th so we can really do a thorough presentation for you. John and Sally and I already had a chance to meet and start looking at it. We've really been focused on this executive session, this school committee we're having now, before we roll out that next one. So just be prepared on November 12th, that will happen. Next thing I want to talk about publicly is what took place here on September 12th at Tohoto. There was a safety event that took place here at Tohoto High School. I want to compliment the students, the staff, and administration, and school committee as well too. You were right there to be able to keep you informed, as well as to listen as well to what was taking place. I also want to thank the local and state police, as well as the fire departments for the quick response and the way they were handling things. Please know there are many things that we did accurately, and I applaud our community for doing that, but we also discovered that there are areas that we need to address. We'll be doing a very deep dive in the events of what took place that morning at Tohoto in executive session. There are very limited reasons to go in executive session at this time. and this is certainly one of them. The goal of sharing this in executive session is to work on fixing and modifying or changing some of our responses, sharing them out with school committee so we can get your input and your feedback on that as well too. But at the same time, we're doing it in executive session because when we show some of the weaknesses here, we want to make sure that there are some people in this world, as we know, when we're paying attention to the news of what's happening in this world, that might use those weaknesses for their advantages. And our job is to keep this community and this district safe. I'm going to introduce you shortly, a gentleman that's in our bullpen, our audience, although I think he stepped out.
He just stepped out.
Got to take a phone call. Rob Pizzella will be working with us as well too, and we'll talk about him and work with him in executive session. He is a safety liaison, and he has many years of experience that will be helping us put some procedures and processes in place. What I can tell you is that since September 18, we have a number of things that we have put in place. And one of the major things that we've done with working with Tohoto is we've had the district attorney come in. Julia Baranowski, who works for the DA, and I can honestly say, I'm sure Mayecha, a former student of mine, did two really great presentations to our high school, at the middle school and at the high school as well too. Great job, really talked to the kids about safety, really talked to kids about internet safety and about things that you do now, even in 6th grade, how they can impact your life, right? If you're making good decisions or if you're making not so good decisions. The next step, and I'm looking for feedback from the community as well as school committee, is that she's going to do a community forum. We'll do it by Zoom, right? And that will be a lot easier. This will be able to have everyone together and stuff. So she's willing to do that, ready to do that, but we felt it was important to get to our students first and our faculty at Tohoto, and then we're going to roll that out to the community. So again, I look forward to talking to you guys about dates that will work for everybody, and we'll go from there. With regards to, I'm sorry, and the 2 dates that she came, just for the record, is September 30th and October 8th at the district attorney's office came. With regards to our administration work, working closely with Sally on more and better at our trade. So one of the things that we're going to do as an admin team is going for that training again, right? We need to get that. The other part about sometimes all consistent in evaluation systems, right? And that came even when I was in Hampton, Wilbraham, even in Worcester. We need to be consistent, and that's something we're going to be doing here. So we're coordinating that as well too. The other part we're working on right now, and you might be seeing some individuals walking around. We have a mentorship program that takes place. We have some mentors that are working with our first year. We're going to do some mentors with administration as well too. We started our first one working at the high school with Lisa. We have Lisa Houlihan, who is a retired administrator, who was a principal for over 25 years, both as a principal at the middle school and the high school. She's now working with our community as well too, and helping us and supporting our administration as well too. So those are sort of things that we're putting in place, and we're excited about that. The last thing, I guess, I just want to say, I appreciate what Megan has said. I appreciate school committee, their support, and as well as our principals and our community. We're working on things. We're trying to continue to move forward in a good direction, and just know that our goal here is not to keep changing things, but it's to make sure we're not keeping status quo. So that's the work that we're really focused on and trying to get done. I said it when I first was interviewed here. This is a really good school district, and our goal with finance and admin is to make it even a great school district, and that's the work we'll be doing. So with that being said, that is my report to the school committee.
Thank you.
Questions?
Thank you.
Megan?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, Jess.
In the beginning, you said that MCAS results were disappointing. Were you referring to just our district or statewide on the call?
Statewide.
Okay.
Yeah, they were pretty low across. And again, there is some validity saying COVID, but that's getting sort of old with us as administrators and us as superintendents as well too. But there were not good results for the state of Massachusetts.
But it's a Massachusetts test
Across
too.
the board.
So was that brought up?
What's that?
Like it's only a Massachusetts test? So
'Cause
in
it
terms
is
of
the-
being
it is the state
validated that the
test for
whole
Mass-
state did poorly, is that being looked at?
Yes, that's the work that I'm not doing, that's the work that the Department of
Oh, Yeah, yeah.
Education
I'm
is
just
doing,
curious if
yes.
that was on the call as well.
Absolutely, right? So the state is just in Massachusetts, they give the MCAS rate. And so across the state, if you go on the Department of Education website, you can see it, there was very little growth across. In some areas, we're going to show you on November that we did better in some situations, better than the state did. But still, that's not the growth that we want to see. But we're getting there. So
And it was the same test as last year.
it's a different test. Every year it changes a little bit, right? Some of the different questions, they don't have the same questions every year. And there are people that the superintendents retired that help create those questions for that test, but it is a different set of questions they ask each year. Similar themes, right, in ELA and math and science, but a different set of questions. We got work to do across the state as well in our district as well.
I guess I'm curious if the whole state did poorly, if it has to do with the MCAS itself. That's my question. I don't know. And unfortunately, our next meeting is after some ballot questions that are relevant to that.
Yeah, but just
Oh.
through the chair, that's not for
Okay.
all MCAS, just know that, right? That's not for students in the elementary schools and all of that. It is specific. And if, through the chair, if you're okay.
Yeah.
So can I put you on the spot, Lisa? Because I know you did a great job explaining it just
Yes.
for when you were talking to parents at your open house. Would you mind just,
Oh, absolutely. So the ballot question is whether or not the MCAS should be a graduation requirement. The state has put a lot of time and money into developing MCAS at every level. It will not be going away as a metric for accountability. So the state will continue, I'm confident that the state will continue to use it as a metric of accountability. But maybe, depending on what the ballot question. So no matter how you vote on the ballot question, it doesn't mean that MCAS will not exist. It will always exist in some way, shape, or form.
and let's be clear, the money that's tied to the MCAS as well too.
Right.
The money we're getting from the federal government based on that MCAS as well too. Not on our scores, but that we're administering the MCAS.
Right.
And just to that point, we'll talk about it, I don't want to go deep on that November, it's one assessment, right? We should be looking at it, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, it's one assessment. But the things that we're going to show you is some of the other assessments that we're doing as well too, and what we're looking at. So it's one assessment at one point in time, but it's certainly a data point, it's one data point.
Any other questions for Al? Okay, thank you. Mr. Didi, please take it away. I love the podium. Love it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, everyone. So first of all, I apologize. I was late getting my brevity report into the drive today, so I apologize for that. Secondly, as I mentioned earlier, I'm the new kid on the block. I don't sing, I don't dance. Little levity, please, to the group from the 80s. And new
You
kids on
using
the
that
block.
joke twice now?
Yeah.
Seriously.
So, but that being said, I did review the school committee policy, policy DGA, which states, the school committee shall designate by vote one member who will sign the payroll and accounts payable warrants presented by the school committee, school business administrator. Copies of warrants approved in this manner must be posted and provided at the next school committee meeting. That being said, I have in the back 3 warrants that we've done during the month of September. But again, not clear in terms of the policy, the process here. I apologize. So what I've done is that I've given you 3 votes tonight. So I'm going to read each motion, and I would ask for a vote to approve that warrant. So the first voucher is voucher 1001. It is dated September 11th, 2024, with a value of $164,620.61. This warrant includes a number of payments across the general fund, circuit breaker, school lunch revolving, and several federal grants. And again, the warrant's in the back of the room. I have a motion in my pack, in my brevity report, to approve the value of this warrant.
You want to vote now?
Please.
All right, so could I please have a motion to approve warrant 1001 as presented by administration with a value of $164,620.61?
So moved.
Laurie? Mike? All right, discussion on that?
We're paying our bills. We need to pay our bills.
Thank you. It's not,
You want to look at it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very difficult to be voting for something that I'm not myself.
I
looked
understand.
at, and I know you are the, designee to sign off, like,
So if I may, Madam Chair, I started on September 4th. I walked into a bee's nest. And one of the issues that I walked into that I'm still trying to resolve is that there were a number of unpaid invoices. Those unpaid invoices are now in that pile over there. Use that term pile, but it is a lot of paper. And for the record, for the public, for the committee, the checks for those warrants have been released because there were vendors who were beginning to shut us off. Okay, I can give you a litany of what hasn't happened. As you well know, the district was behind in making their 403B payments to PenServe, our 403B TPA. Consequently, because we were not making those payments, the subsequent transfer to respective investment companies wasn't happening. We will be penalized for that lack of work. Don't know what the number's going to be, but we're going to find out. We were not making payments to MTRS. We were not making payments to Worcester Regional Retirement. We were not making payments to our grounds crew company, and on and on and on. And there are many more. We were not making payments to our special ed providers, our tuition payments. So my job, and in all sincerity, was to get those bills paid as quickly as I could with the appropriate backup. Now, I'm not done. We are not done. There are still issues with FY24. And one big issue, and I'm sure they're looking now, is that there are still some reimbursements for teachers from courses last spring. There was a problem that I had fixed relative to the encumbrance. It wasn't properly encumbered. You say, how could it not be properly encumbered? It wasn't properly encumbered. And you can't use your previous year account as a slush fund to pay bills. You can't. So,
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you. So just on this, and he's gonna
it
go on.
wasn't criticism, yes, no, I
Yeah, so-
apologize, Dan. I
No, no,
appreciate
no,
the
no,
hours
no,
and hours
so-
you put in, so it wasn't
Just
criticism, it's just.
on this time through the chair, you guys left late fees, taxes, all that, we're calling all these people saying, listen, so we are pushing this through, and I apologize, but I think you trust will not be presented this way, but we gotta pay our bills.
All right.
and if I may, going back to my opening comments this evening, in a perfect world, and you will be there, you will be there sooner or later, is that for both the AP and the payroll warrants, what should happen, and what will happen is that both the payroll director email to the committee, making them aware, please see attached payroll voucher 1234 with a value of $500,000, please approve. And then the committee will have the opportunity, there'll be reports attached to that email that you can look at, and you have that right, positively have that right to review both the payroll and the AP warrants as well. And then that'll go to the school business official, to the committee, and to the superintendent. The treasurer will also be part of that for payroll, and she will sign off. Funds have been transferred to fund payroll, and you're good to go. That's best practice. That's best practice. And I've said that to the committee prior to this meeting this evening, and you're going to get there. You're just not there yet. And in all sincerity, I was going to pay our bills. We're going to get disruption of services across the board, period. And the lights don't go out either.
Okay, so what we used to do is, we never had a point person, I don't know, it was when I first came on the committee. Remember, we used to have to look at the warrants during the
Yeah.
meetings? Yeah, you guys remember.
Everybody would rush to sign them here.
You would rush to sign them, you'd have to sign them at the end of the meeting, and then we'd approve them at the following consent agenda. We're definitely not going back to that, because it was super inefficient, but given the fact, I wouldn't recommend going through all the invoices. There's a report at the front of each thing, so you can see the vendors that are being paid, and that's what we used to get. Nicole would put in. Finish his report, you can look through these. I mean, it's not that long, that's really, the bulk of it is right here, and it totals up to the 164,000 in the motion. So we can table this motion, let Dan finish his entire report, and then we'll make those three motions after she looks at them. Would you be okay with that?
Yes.
What do you think? Are you okay with that, Jess? You want? Yeah, I mean, I think that's the best we can do if we're gonna get it voted at this meeting, because we don't meet again until November. All right, you're okay with the other ones. And if anyone else wants, you can just pass them. Are you good? Okay. All right, continue again, and then we'll do the motions. I know what you're saying.
Want me to continue with the?
Yeah, continue with the, skip the motions, we'll do that, do the
Right.
other stuff, yeah.
So the second voucher is voucher 1002 dated September 25th, 2024, with a value of $266,670.07. Similar to voucher 1 circuit breaker, athletics, the after-school program, and several federal grants. Then the third is voucher number 1003 dated September 22nd, 2024, with a value of $1,038,796.18. And this is a big one. This here is primarily to pay our health insurance that was in arrears minimally for 3 months. And the invoices in there reflect that. Again, for the second and the third, there are separate motions to approve those warrants. And again, and for the record, for the committee, for the public, I grovel. I'm getting pretty good at that with a number of vendors. Meyer has agreed to extend the 60-day window in which we can get applications in, given the issues that are occurring here in the district. And I appreciate that. So that anyone who was on board during the summer or anyone since then, and there have been hiccups with getting their applications in, they have been incredibly helpful to me, to the district, to those individuals to get it done.
And just through the chair, like, you don't realize the personal stories that go along with not paying these bills, like people not having health insurance, people not able to get their medications. Like, all of this was impacting us not paying our bills and sending the money over there. So it really, the personal stories is what's been taken.
So sorry to everybody that this happened. It's just an awful situation.
All right.
Good.
This is
I'll
all
vote on that
subject.
later, yeah.
Yeah, we'll vote, yeah, you finish your update, and then if you guys want to pass them along, well, yeah, whatever you're done with.
So I have some interviews tomorrow afternoon and also on Thursday relative to an APAR position. This is again one of the vacancies we've had for about a month now, and I'm hopeful that we'll find someone and we can bring him or her on board relatively soon.
Yeah,
I
I'm
will-
so sorry. Can you just tell people what an APAR is?
Sure, sorry, accounts payable, accounts receivable.
What time? Sorry.
For the committee, and I think I know the administrators see around the table, know this, during the business day, typical hours 8 to 4, I'm a one-arm paper hanger. I think that they know that. And I'll publicly apologize again to the folks sitting around the table, because I know for a fact that I'm not getting things done for them. I'm a one-arm paper hanger. However, we as the superintendent noted, there are days when the business office is busier at night from say 5 to 9 than it is during the day, because I have other people coming in, and as I have stated before, this job is going to take a village to. Can't mention their names because they're working elsewhere, but I sincerely appreciate. I can't mention one person because we have signed her to a contract. Patty Spunkberg, our new payroll coordinator, who will be here on October 28th. We got her a week sooner than expected, and I sincerely appreciate that, and I'm sure the folks sitting on the table appreciate that, and the folks and staff on board. In any event, we have interviews this week. It'll be myself, and then I'll make some recommendations to Aaron Osborne, and perhaps he and I can do a round two, just be done with that and get someone in, hopefully sooner than later.
Great.
What I'd like to do, Madam Chair, is just go through my report, and then I'd be happy to entertain questions from the committee. All right, excess and deficiency. Given the fact from the committee. All right, excess and deficiency. Given the fact that target to file our E&D, as you call it, on November 30 or December 1st, thereabouts. Ironically, we got an email today, school business officials in regional districts just remind us that the deadline is slowly creeping up. So that is the game plan. However, it is my responsibility as your school business official to apprise you of issues as I come across them. And by 23 submittal for E&D, that the figure, and it's on the balance sheet checklist. What is the balance sheet checklist? Well, so when budget sub meets in a week or thereabouts, I will do a 50-foot review, bring it down 50 feet of last year's. I'm not going to get into all the numbers, but I sincerely believe, and I've done this in my previous district, that I would give you a high-level review. However, on the first page, it's called the balance sheet checklist. The figure reported for FY24, for the FY24 general fund budget is incorrect. The number reported there is approximately 25 million. So that is off a variance of minimally of 2 million plus. I have, to use my term, this is my term, I have self-reported to DOR. I have reached out to our representative, and I've also made DESE aware of the issue as well. Haven't heard from DOR yet. I did hear from DESE, and you know, their response is to keep us in the loop in terms of what you're doing relative to that. So
Dan,
that's.
so sorry, so Desi has a phone conference with us in, the chair on Thursday?
Thursday at 11 o'clock.
And then at the next school committee meeting, we're looking at having them come as well too and speaking to us as a school committee. So I want you to make sure that we're going through the proper channels of this. We'll meet with Megan on Thursday and then the school committee, and maybe even sooner than the next school committee meeting with the Department of Education, maybe on a Zoom call for all of us as well too, depending what happens on Thursday's meeting. Okay?
Sorry, you must have seen my script.
Oh, was that, sorry, I apologize, go ahead.
That's okay, it's all good, it's all good. So relative to FY25, last week at the ad staff meeting, again, I gave a quick budget update. But one thing I said to them, and I mentioned this to this group as well, is that this is an opportunity. This is an opportunity to initiate, to develop, and then to implement best practices. You may have okay practices now or good practices, but after all this work is done, that I will not be here. Because I'm the interim guy, but there will be best practices in place. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen overnight. But one of the best practices that I did share with the ad staff team is what I call chasing dogs POs. And that is a periodic review, typically on a quarterly basis, to look at all those open purchase orders and to see where you stand for those goods, those services that were ordered perhaps during the summer, at the start of the school year, and to make adjustments accordingly. You should have, and you will, I'm going to create a schedule before I leave, a financial calendar in terms of goals to be met during the school year, and when you shut down purchasing. And shutting down purchasing is not on June 29th of 2025. It should be done probably at or about May 1st. I know I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit, but I share that with the group publicly. That being said, as your school business official, I have a responsibility to make you aware of issues relative to the budget, relative to assessments, and what have you. As I said a moment ago, I have self-reported the issue with the FY23 E&D submittal to DOR, and that may not impact your free cash certification last year because they're just looking for the FY24 budget. So that would be a good thing in terms of that. Certainly, the folks in this room and elsewhere are aware that there are issues with the FY25 budget. I've done a deep dive, looking at various minutes, and I'm here to tell you this evening that if you just look at the June 24, 2024 letter that was sent to the town administrator of the town of Berlin, in that letter, which was signed by the previous superintendent and the previous treasurer, they quote a general fund budget of approximately $23,423,320.63. However, as you know, our general fund budget, as in our accounting software, iVisions, is approximately $24,793,688.22. So we have a variance, round numbers of approximately 1.4 million, round numbers, approximately 1.4 million in the general fund, given what was voted by the committee on June 24th and what's in our accounting software. I do remember way back when I was working with an auditor in a previous district, they say, whatever's in your accounting software, that's your budget. That's your budget. So if I may, I'll finish up. So that being said, we have a deficit on paper. There is work to be done. On Friday, I had a 45-minute call with the Department of Education, with Michelle Griffin, who's the liaison for regional school districts. She was aware of these issues, and I made her aware of some other issues. We agreed to have a follow-up conversation yesterday with administration, the superintendent and myself, along with several other representatives from the DESE. We spoke for about an hour. We spoke about the budget and where the budget stands. We spoke about the assessments and where the assessments stand and the calculations for the assessments. We put it all on the table, DESE, probably to no one's surprise, expressed grave concern about the FY25 general fund budget. They expressed grave concern about the assessments and the calculations. So it was left that they would contact me today, and they did. I've worked with Michelle Griffin, and we have a subsequent meeting for this Thursday with our school committee chair, with representatives from the DESE. And from that, we will then report back to the full committee, and certainly we'll report back to budget subcommittee. Now, having said this, I'm not here to say, okay, you got a problem here, you're out of luck. That's not my job. It's not my job. My job is to make you aware that we have a problem, and then to present to you some recommendations to solve the problem, even though I'm out the door. That beach is looking really, really good. I'm gonna tell you that. The fund balance in the certified FY23 E&D for school choice was approximately 2.3 million. The fund balance, unofficial fund balance in school choice for FY24 was approximately 2.9 million. Want to call it 3 million, that's fine, because there are probably some revenues that still haven't been posted from last year that we need to check on, okay? But you've got to, that's one area. Secondly, there is a fund balance as reported in the FY23 E&D submittal for a SPED. You have a carry forward in circuit breaker as reported. FY25 circuit breaker, which reflects FY24 expenditures, approximately just a little bit under $800,000. The point you have that you can reallocate cost from the general fund into them to cover the budget for FY25. It does pose a problem for FY26. It does. I'm not going to deny that. But I also think too that there are the reason for the variance in the 25 general fund budget is that number, but I have no documentation to substantiate this, is that number probably includes the offsets, and I have seen those numbers in meetings and in PowerPoints, that some of those offsets may be rolled into that $24.7 million to account for the variance. That shouldn't be the case. You know, that shouldn't be the case. They're separate. Meeting again Thursday at 11 o'clock. The other thing that DESE spoke about yesterday, Jay Sullivan, the Associate Commissioner for School Finance, is that the first thing that I'll need to do is to begin the reconciliation process for FY25 to basically start from ground zero and to tie in to the number that was reported on June 24th to the town of Berlin in the assessment letter. I'm going to assume that that is the committee's final number. And we're not going to get into this evening. I need to share with you what length in our budget subcommittee meeting. So you have options, you have opportunities to fix this, and I believe that that can happen. I do. You may be again not knowing the practice here in the district, but if you look to carry forward one year's allocation of circuit breaker to the following year, just to sake of numbers, if this year's number is 800,000, just to use that number. It has been my experience, my practice, that 800,000 we don't touch. We don't touch that fiscal year. We use it the following year. You have 1 year to use those funds. If we have to tap into this year's circuit breaker, so be it. We do. I also want to make a recommendation that I think you've again an opportunity. This is an opportunity to do a reset. You've got a great opportunity here to really drill down on your school-based Medicaid claims. Given what I've seen, you bring in some small cash, and there may be others saying, we're not going to go down that road, and I get that, but there is money there. There is money there that I believe can help you in FY26 for sure. But it's going to take some perspiration and sweat, to say the least. You got to have to roll up your sleeves. But there is an opportunity there, given the receipts that I've seen to date. And I've seen much larger numbers. In my district that I was working last year, interim gig, we brought in well over $300,000. In another regional district years ago, we brought in I'm giving you this bad news, but I'm also giving you suggestions as to how to right the ship and make it whole moving forward. I think that's enough about FY25. Last, FY26, with all that's going on, we can't lose sight, and I mentioned this at the ad staff meeting last week, that FY26 is knocking on the door. We're kind of pushing the middle of October. I will have, for the budget subcommittee meeting, proposed schedule for FY26, and that will include, again, this financial calendar for the fiscal year. And I'm going to tease you a little bit and suggest maybe some things that we haven't done in the past to bring forward the budget. The budget's a story. It's a story. It's a book that we write every year. And in this story, to the folks in this room here, as to how we're going to enable them to take these funds to be students and adults of the 21st century, period. So that's on the horizon, and maybe I'll be on a beach by that point in time. Madam Chair, that concludes my report. I've said a lot, and I'd be happy to answer any questions from the committee.
Thank you for the time you put into this.
Just through the chair.
We can.
All set.
I think it's a good idea, and still know.
Very.
Running.
We got to really start digging deep into this. So instead of using, again, the reason why you have the budget sub or any subcommittees is getting that work done there and lifting it up to school committee. So
Yeah, and we did actually last year, Julie and I met a lot, right? More than once a month, and then we would both try to take turns or go to all the, or a good chunk of the finance committee deadline of October 31st, which is creepy.
meeting with Kristen from Berlin on Thursday morning.
Mike, did you?
I don't know, just what she has.
Or,
Thanks for the time that you put into this and the suggestions on how to go forward.
did you have something?
Can you just repeat the bills that went unpaid? That goes back
To to bid mid-June of 2024. There were issues with, as I said, our 403B payments to our respective providers. I believe I have reported this to the school committee. Consequently, we will be fined. That's the term. I don't know what the fine is going to be yet, but basically the fine is such that PennServ will calculate the lost earnings for those staff impacted by that, and that we will pay PennServ, then PennServ will then make the disbursements to the respective vendors for those lost earnings. There were unpaid invoices for MTRS, for Worcester Regional Retirement. There were a number of unpaid invoices for our grounds provider. They shut us down for a week or thereabouts.
Dan, I think, we're June 1st is right about where we starting to see that bills weren't being paid from. I think it's Mike's question, right around there.
About June 1st, thereabouts. And, frankly, it's just a hodgepodge of invoices, and we have kind of a system now, at least in central office, that if someone gets an email from a vendor for whatever, be it an unpaid tuition bill or whatever it might be, I say, just give me that email and I'll contact that person. I think we've made significant headway in those unpaid invoices, but there's more. There's more. And I'm sure that there are folks listening and watching. There is an issue with the encumbrance, as I mentioned earlier in my discussion, for reimbursing teachers for courses for last year. I'm not going to get into what it was. I'm not going down that rabbit hole because it will be complicated. But there is a resolution, and we're going to fix it. But it takes time, especially if you went on paper hangout.
That answers your question.
Indeed.
Anybody else?
All right, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank
for
you.
this morning.
Seriously, thank you so much for all of the time and effort you put into this. All right, so we do need to vote on these warrants. So do you want to do that now? Get that done? Okay. All right, can I please have a motion to approve warrant 1001 as presented by administration with a value of $164,620.61?
So moved.
Second.
Laurie and Julie, any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
I'm an aye as well. That motion passes. All right, could I please have a motion to approve warrant 1002 as presented by administration with a value of $266,670.07?
So moved.
Laurie,
Second.
Julie.
Thanks.
Any discussion on that? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, I'm an aye as well. That motion passes. Last one, could I please have a motion to approve warrant 1003 as presented by administration with a value of $1,038,796.18?
So moved.
Laurie?
Second. Sorry.
I'm sorry, I was wondering where
I'm
she's
so
seeing this.
sorry.
I don't see
Julie.
it, so.
All right, any discussion? Sorry, all in favor?
Aye.
I can't hear Mr. Johnson.
So, I'm in favor.
What?
It's because I wasn't in favor.
All right, opposed?
Maybe.
Yes,
Yes.
all right. Yeah, he probably was. Opposed on the others as well?
Nicole, you capturing all this?
So on the first two motions, he was opposed, this third one, he's opposed. All right, I'm an aye, that motion passes. Motions are still passing. All right, so I'm going to backtrack a little bit before the principals do the report. So we voted on the warrants, but we did not vote on the consent agenda. So I'm going to make the motion, and then if anyone has any questions on those minutes. So what we're specifically voting on is it's the minutes from June 17th, which was the meeting right before town meeting, June 18th, which is the meeting we had the day after town meeting, and then the September 10th meeting, which was the last month's meeting. All right, so could I please have a motion to approve the open meeting minutes for June 17th, 2024, June 18th, 2024, and September 10th, 2024?
So moved.
Laurie, Jess, any discussion on those or questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, I'm an aye as well. That passes 5-0. All right, now we are up to the principal reports. Mrs. Sykes, please take it away.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to share some of the great things that are happening at BES. You've received my report, so I'm just going to highlight a couple of things. One of the things that we do at the start of every year is to kind of screen the students to see where they are, and we make a plan for how we're going to teach them. We benchmark again in the winter, we benchmark again at the end of the year. And this, one of the tools we use is the Ames Web. And out of this, and I'm going to point to Mr. Flournoy here, who is our amazing math coach that we share. We were talking about parents understanding the data. So we send it home. And we provided an opportunity for them to come in, and I'm gonna be very honest, it was very short notice at first. We gave them 2 days because we had to plan this. I didn't expect a lot, and we had, what do we have, 17, 19? We planned a second one just because of that short notice. There was a lot of great informative questions and a lot of great conversations. So this is something that I'd like to see continue. And again, Joey right here led that.
It was a lot of fun. They really did come with, because I didn't plan it, I wanted to see how it went, and they just came with really good questions that kept us there just over an hour, and they were all engaged, and I think walked away feeling a little bit better about what's going on.
And we'll get back to how many people we have this coming up Friday as well. I'm expecting more. And we offered them treats from our lovely cafeteria that you had mentioned Al to use, so we do that as well. You have the rest of my report, so any questions about that or anything on the report?
Does anyone have questions for Mrs. Sykes?
I'm curious if like I don't know if there are any notes were taken from that meeting, but if maybe like commonly asked questions or FAQs for the Ames Web could come out of that meeting?
Definitely, I think that was a great thing. Joey led the meeting, I kind of took the notes and just jumped in every once in a while, but we did take notes that we shared.
And definitely some ideas we'd like to kick off next year, sort of the FAQs to give parents that, like, here's what's coming. So.
It's great. All right, anyone else? All right, perfect. Thank you, Mr. Campbell.
Good evening, everybody. You've got my report as well. Cindy did beginning of the year assessments, so I won't repeat that. I'll talk real quick about all school meetings, which we do obviously once a month. We're focusing a little bit this year on attendance, not because it's a huge problem in my school, but it's a source of pride for kids that, you know, they show up every day. So we made, in addition to our hardest working student of the month for every grade, we did certificates for everybody that had perfect attendance so far this year. 128 kids out of 225, whatever it is we have now. So it was really nice to see. And it was funny because I missed a kid's certificate and she complained. That was a lot.
That means more to them sometimes in the grades, that perfect attendance.
Well,
right?
it's, you know, everybody needs something to celebrate.
Yep.
And we didn't spend a ton of time on it. I didn't like, you know, have them all come up individually to get a certificate because they've got learning to do. But we did take the picture and it's been a good start to the year.
Great. All right, does anyone have any questions for Mr. Campbell?
Just a comment, John, I thought I'd read this in your report too, Cindy, but maybe I'm mistaken, but you're placing that emphasis on attendance. I feel the need just to bring up the grumblings I'm hearing. We get a pattern going for kids, full days, full day off tomorrow, full day off Monday, half day the next week. So you're placing an emphasis on the classroom time for kids not to miss school. But then as a district, we've got all these days off. It's for a good cause. I understand your professional development, but the importance of the focus on the attendance next to the lack of class time with all these days off is just something that sticks out to a lot of people. To you personally.
And through the chair, if I that Sally and I and John have already been talking about the calendar. What I'm going to propose to school committee and the chair is that we're going to do 2 years worth of calendars. Right? The onus on us right now is to get next year's done right away so parents know. But if we do 2 years up front, we only have to worry that, and we'll be really looking at all of that data, right? How do parents feel about it? What's our attendance look like on those half days, right? What's it look like? And we'll go through all that and we'll give you a report probably after the holidays of where
where we're gonna go and what direction. I'm hoping by March, the very latest, that you'll have 2 years worth of calendars in front of school committee. Is that usually a timeline on that?
March, we usually vote in the 1 year ahead of time.
Okay, so hopefully by March, we'll have 2 years.
March, April.
And also survey the teachers, how are they feeling about that as well, too?
Okay, great. All right, Janelle.
Sure. So, my report was written in collaboration with the other members of the administration team. And it summarizes the preschool program review that we conducted that's in accordance with the district improvement plan. It was a while to receive that report. Really having to do with enrollment, staffing, potentially relocating the Tohoto preschool program over to Boylston Elementary School, supporting students with autism through our programs, and comparing our tuitions to other districts. And as you can see in my report, there was a number of key findings that are discussed, as well as recommendations. And really, the big overarching focus of that report was really about our preschool program's effectiveness, areas for improvement, and expansion of our programs through full day preschool programs, which we do not currently have. So a couple of big recommendations that came out of it that the administrative team is in favor, and these are relevant into budget season, is there was a recommendation to restructure the preschool leadership to really increase that, and perhaps even add a half-time preschool coordinator or director to the district. So that's certainly something that we are in favor of, that we feel like we need in order to really provide some unity in the preschool programs and to act on a lot of the recommendations that were there. In general, if there are a number of fiscal considerations that need to be taken into account, as well as the child development program at Tohoto. But if those items could be preschool over to Boylston, they need a lot of time, attention, and we'd like to even ask the budget subcommittee to look at some of those items with us.
Yep.
And then there were some recommendations that we already have very well in progress. Those are conducting a demographic study. We just got some information from NESDEC that we're looking at. We'll bring that back to share with you, as well as improving professional development, very specific to preschool students and staff. And that is actually being done through the calendar of our additional preschool time. So that's a big overview of a very lengthy report. There's a very full copy of that report that's available in my office. It does have some confidential staff information, but if any of the school committee members wanted to take the time to look at that, please let me know. I'd be happy to meet with you.
Can I just ask one question?
Yeah.
Of course.
So I know at the high school, the students that do it for 4 years, the child development course for 4 years can actually get a certificate through the Department of Education.
So that's something, an area that we really need to study, because we don't want to lose that program. It is important, and it is important support. So that is something we would have to take into consideration as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
And just through the chair, that's something, obviously, the next administration, creating those pathways in the high school, Lisa and I have talked about that, right? So that students have an idea where they're going to be when they graduate from their senior year in high school, that, yes, education I want to go into, I'm putting my time into yet. Something I want to go into. So looking at those pathways is certainly something that we could plan for the high school as well, too. I just want to be clear, not looking at moving the preschool for next year. Okay.
It's a little bit of a longer, it would require more planning. It would be a multi-year. All of those fiscal
Absolutely.
Considerations really need to be studied.
And I'll be going to the budget sub and talking about that preschool coordinator, right? That's a huge position that most districts have. I have to tell you, preschool is a very competitive money-making business as well too, right? There's a lot of money to be made from us with preschool, but it's also a very competitive business out there. There are a lot of private, there are a lot of, so we need to really focus on that, because when you look at declining enrollment, right, at any of our schools, getting them in that front door the first time and keeping them in as that preschool is huge. So we'll be talking more in details about getting that, or looking at having that preschool coordinator.
Okay. All right, anyone else? Oh, thanks.
I assume full-time is kind of the direction you want to move in, but like, has it been looked at to do full-time at the elementaries and then maintain a part-time program at Tohoto? Just to open up the slots? I'm just saying, because full-time, you're gonna have your slots, right? Hypothetically.
Yeah, so, and that's where we would want to look at it. So that suggestion would be having 3 preschool classrooms, right? We have the one in Berlin, the one in Tohoto. So that goes to having an additional teacher. It's a fiscal consideration. So I agree with you. I think that that should be an option, that we should look at slots for the families that works for, as well as the full day slots. But it just for students with and without disabilities, and ensuring that there's enough of those slots.
We get reports from NASDAQ, and that will probably be my next school committee meeting, that show like birth rates and show like projections, right? We pay for that, just so you know, part of our budget. So we get these reports that are really good reports, so they get out there and get that information. So before we're looking at adding additional preschools, is the birth rate telling us that, yeah, we're gonna need to do this because we're seeing this many births are happening right now, and that we need to be prepared for that. So looking at it, so it's not just given to you at the school committee, so I'll add that. Nicole, if you could just make notice on that NASDAQ report, I think you had it, Sally, maybe?
Oh, yeah.
Just share that report, I think you had it, Sally, maybe?
Oh, yeah.
Just share that.
Question on that. Yeah,
It's
yeah,
great information, so let's make sure we get that.
yeah, it is good.
And that will lead us in terms of, do we really?
All right,
Thank
I
you,
think definitely.
Collaborative effort.
everybody, thanks for
Yeah,
working
that's great, thank you. All right, Sally.
Sure, so at the beginning of my report, I just had an update for the allocations that we received for the ESSA grants. I had discussed them in my last report, but didn't have the actual numbers there, so I've added those. And just a couple updates about a couple of grants that we've already received and that we're working on. In addition to the ones listed in the report, just today, actually, I heard from Case, and they're offering us another grant as well. We had a full professional development day on the 24th, and I listed in the report some of the various sessions that we offered, and we're having another one tomorrow. And then the Wellness Committee did meet, and we are finalizing that presentation that we'd like to bring around to the faculties and the PTO and the boosters. We should be able to finish it up at our next meeting, which is coming up on October 23rd. And finally, we are developing a STEAM committee, and so far.
Can you just confirm what STEAM is, right?
Sure, so STEAM is a committee that helps, it has to do with science, technology, math, and arts, and the ability to promote multidisciplinary collaboration between those courses, and also to put together activities and events that are all around those areas.
Does anyone have any questions for Sally?
It was really nice to see in some of the newsletters what was happening during the PD day, and some of the topics discussed. It helps a parent absorb those hours off to see what's happening.
Good point. Yeah.
And we'll be talking about that with contract negotiations with our principals, like what does that look like for professional learning days moving forward? Thanks.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, so I think that's it for reports, right? And then, all right,
Good job, everybody. Thank you.
so we have 2 more. We got the search committee, we got the contract. So we've got 2 things. I'll do the Boylston Education Collaborative. This is very easy, simple, I think. All right, so I'm going to have to abstain from voting because I'm the treasurer of the Boylston Education Collaborative, and I'm bringing this request to the school committee. So the Boylston Education Collaborative is looking to sell beer at Pumpkin Fest. We went to the board, the select board in Boylston, and they approved a liquor license as long as the school committee approves it as well. So what we've done in the past at bingo, we sold beer, and what we have is there's a woman on the Boylston Education Collaborative. Her mother owns Breen's Bar in Worcester. So thank you, Breen's. They've donated the alcohol. They donated it for bingo, and they're planning to donate it again for Pumpkin Fest if we get the liquor license. So it's straight profit for the group, for the collaborative. For those that don't know, the Boylston Education Collaborative is the merger between the Boylston Elementary PTO and the Boylston Education Foundation. And so the group raises money and all of the money goes back into enrichment, mostly goes to teacher grants. I think more than half of what we raise goes into the teacher grants. It goes into programming at the school. It supplements the budget. We've bought iPads before. We bought the smart board in the library with the amazing smart cart that goes with it. It's an amazing group to supplement the budget, especially in these tough times where, we've had to make a lot of cuts. So I'm going to make the motion and then we can discuss. But the request is just for the school committee to approve selling beer at Pumpkin Fest. All right, so could I please have a motion to approve the Boylston Education Collaborative to sell beer at Pumpkin Fest?
So moved.
Laurie and Jess. All right, any discussion or questions?
So at bingo, you had your own insurance as well? and
Yeah.
Only a certain number of tickets to be sold per person?
Yeah, so we have a separate policy for each event, and this policy includes alcohol. The process with the select board to get a liquor license, you need an insurance policy, you need to sign off by the police, we'll have a police detail there, and you need to sign off by the fire chief. So John Annunziata signed off on it, Joe Flanagan signed off on it, we submitted the insurance policy, the select board voted on it. It's a 3 beer maximum, so there's bracelets, you get an orange bracelet, you get 3 beers. If you buy one, you can also buy 1 beer for a yellow bracelet. We have a tip certified bartender that we pay who will be doing the serving, and the alcohol is not allowed in the building. So what we have is we have a parent watching the door. So if somebody's holding their beer, they want to go in the bathroom, they can't, they got to get rid of it or they got to put it down. Can't go in the building. Obviously, if it rains, this idea will be nixed, and the beauty of it is we don't lose any money because Breen's is donating the alcohol. They're a bar, they can take all the alcohol back and use it in their bar, especially the pumpkin beer that they're planning to provide insiders. It's no hard alcohol, it's just beer and wine.
And through the chair,
Yeah.
just the date on that is?
Oh, it will be Sunday, October 27th. I think it was in Cindy's report, from 1 to 4 p.m.
And there's also non-alcoholic things as well too.
Oh, yeah, we have
soda,
make your own
water. Okay,
s'mores.
perfect.
Yeah, we're having the coffee cabin, Hultastic popcorn, which is amazing, cotton candy.
Just so people don't think we're just doing beer at night. so
No,
there's a
we
lot
just
more.
need the approval for that,
Okay.
but yeah, the same thing with bingo. I think we have pizza, chips, waters, like all that stuff. So, but you make the money on the alcohol, especially when it's donated.
They have a great steak and cheese at Breen's, just for the record.
So I've
One of the best in
heard.
the city. Sorry, I digress.
Carrie Ann is watching, she'll be having here. All right, any other questions on that? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, I'm an aye as well, that motion passes. All right, last vote, and then we'll close this up and go into executive session. So Al has an addendum he'd like us to look at for the school contract, and the gist of it is, I don't think this was in Carol's contract, but the way it's written now is he has to keep track of all of his travel rather than just having a stipend that would cover the travel for the year. So I think after him and Nicole started keeping track of all the times he's going back and forth between the schools, because he's on the road every day at all of the schools, it just kind of doesn't make sense. So what he's asking is that rather than having to keep the mileage, there's a stipend. So would you like to explain that?
Yeah, so thank you through the chair. So Nicole does a nice job. I was trying to keep track of where I'm going and what I'm doing as the team looks at me like. So instead of like literally charting out where I'm going in the mileage from one school to the other, I just figured we'd give it an abbreviated version, right? I just did an average of it as well too. So this way we don't have to submit. Previous superintendents, they just had to do their mileage and add it all up and present it that way. It's just so hard. And I'm really just trying to take that off Nicole. And if anything, I'm probably on the lighter end of this, but I just feel like this would just be an easier road for me to go down, no pun intended there, than measuring each step I go from place to place. And I've also encumbered all the travel I'm going to be doing for the MASC meetings as well too. So I just sort of try to lump that all together at the same time.
So that's on that other.
I do a lot in the district office, trying to make things cleaner and neater instead of harder. We're trying to work smarter, not harder.
So the addendum would be to add a $4,000 travel stipend rather than
Nicole, literally.
tracking it.
Yep. And I'm comfortable either way. I'm just trying to clean up things, so please.
It seems like a waste of time. Okay, so I'm just gonna make the motion and then we can discuss it. So could, I please have a motion to approve the addendum to the interim superintendent of schools contract, which would add a $4,000 travel stipend rather than having to keep track of travel.
Do you want to say the exact amount?
4,010,
Oh, yeah, sorry. It would be $4,010.18.
So moved.
Listen to me, after we're dealing with the budget, I'm gonna be very specific. Yeah.
All right, that's valid because he has all the backup for it. All right, so Laurie, I need a second.
Second.
Okay, Jess, all right. Does anyone have questions about this for Al?
Do we know what the line item ended up being for Carol last year,
I don't.
I have no idea. I feel like she had a travel stipend. I know like a lot of people in the district have a travel stipend in their contract, so I'm surprised. We used a completely different contract template for Al and it was quick. You don't have travel stipends? I know that,
But
the
that is in his
director
contract.
does.
It's in Al's contract.
It is in Al's contract for travel.
It's part of it.
I've seen Carol, like I know she did the one for the conferences. I've seen her, did she do her own reports maybe? I don't know what she. So I don't know. I'm sorry, I do not know. I do not know. I did see some of her expense reports come through for travel, but I didn't like do a deep dive on that.
And I'm really okay either way, it's just trying to make it cleaner. So this is the
No,
financial
it
piece.
sounds like
just
less
makes
work.
it.
All right, any other discussion on that? Guys ready to vote? All right, all in favor?
I'm just gonna abstain because I have nothing to compare it to. No disrespect.
Okay.
I just don't, you know,
Sure.
All right, any opposed?
Thank you. And at the next school committee meeting, I'll make sure that Dan we'll look back at what the expenditure was for previous superintendent, so you just have some reference points. I should have probably done that as well too. And this was just, as you can see in the thing, it was literally just average.
All right, well, all right, so wait, I'm confused now. All right, so we're voting, all in favor was Jessica, Laurie, Julie abstained, opposed? Did you raise your hand for that?
No, I was gonna say something.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I get it.
What did you want to say?
It was just Nancy.
Oh. All right, all in favor?
Yes, sorry.
Sorry,
I
at
didn't
this
mean to
point
add
in the
more to
night. All right, so I'm gonna make a motion, we're gonna exit open session, we're gonna go into executive session, we will not be returning to open session, so this is it for Kyle. So could I please have, I know. Could I please have a motion to enter into executive session pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 38, Section 21A, Purpose 4, to discuss the deployment of security and not return into open session. We're gonna do a roll call vote.
So moved.
second.
Okay.
Aye.
Jess, Julie.
Aye.
Aye.
Laurie, Mike, I'm an aye as well. Thank you so much. We will see everyone back here in November. Wait, one more thing, Kyle, don't shut it off. This is the last meeting. Are we
Thank you.
still on? Julie, seriously,
Thank you.
hit me in the middle of it when I saw November 12th. And we might have another Zoom, we'll see. But this is like the last meeting. So Julie Lee, thank you. 4.5 years of service to this.
Thank you.
Okay, now you can cut it. Thank you, everyone. Good night.